Do you remember back in 2016, after the shock Brexit vote, and then, of course, Trump winning in America, we were told it was Russia that were damaging our democracy, interfering in the electoral process. Well, in the end, after a big high court case in this country, that will prove to be completely untrue. But the real problem, the real danger to our democracy, of course, always was China. And we learn overnight. We'd heard in August last year that the Electoral Commission's website had been compromised, their database had been compromised. And we learn overnight that, yes, actually, the Chinese Communist Party now have access to 40 million voters in this country and their data. Well, to respond to this in the House of Commons earlier, we heard from the Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden.
I can confirm today that Chinese state-affiliated actors were responsible for 2 malicious cyber campaigns targeting both our democratic institutions and parliamentarians. That is why the United Kingdom has today sanctioned 2 individuals and 1 entity associated with the Chinese state-affiliated APT31 group for involvement in malicious cyber activity targeting officials, government entities, and parliamentarians around the world.
I don't know how tough that sounds to you in terms of a response, but one Member of Parliament, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, was, shall we say, less than impressed.
Whilst I welcome these 2 sanctions from the government, it is a little bit, this statement, like an elephant giving birth to a mouse. The reality is that in those 3 years, the Chinese have trashed the Sino-British Agreement. They have been committing murder and slave labour and genocide in Xinjiang. We have had churches broken and, in Hong Kong, false court cases against Jimmy Lai.
Great quote, elephant giving birth to a mouse. I rather like that. Sir Ian's here. I'll ask him about where that came from in a moment. But it's all going to be OK. It's all going to be absolutely fine because the Chinese ambassador has been summoned to meet, yes, Lord Cameron, the Foreign Secretary.
Attacks on our democracy are unacceptable. Yet that is what organisations backed by China have done. Today, we are publicly calling them out. And we've taken action. We've summoned the Chinese ambassador, and we are putting sanctions, travel bans, asset freezes, on the individuals and the group responsible. Such action from China will not be tolerated. We will always seek to defend ourselves from those that threaten our values and our democracy. And we encourage other countries to do the same.
And Cameron said, you know, really very naughty, very naughty. The same Lord Cameron who was David Cameron as Prime Minister, along with his Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, decided that we had a great new future with China. Indeed, even invited the Chinese president down to his local pub on a Sunday lunchtime for a pint. But given this, given the hacking into individuals, given that 40 million people's data is now going to be in the hands of the Chinese communists, what next? What do we actually do next? I'd love to hear from you. Farage at gbnews.com. What now? What on earth do we do? Because it seems to me that we don't really have a policy.